Good afternoon, and welcome to the first, I hope, of many Pathway to Professional Bermuda series. I'm your host, Earl Waston, and joining me is Peter Ricard. Peter is currently in the UK. He has been there 4 years now, Peter.
Yep,
Four
4 years
years,
now.
not just developing yourself uh, uh, in the sport of football, but also helping others along the way. And this show, you and I first discussed it. It was more to help people understand the very integral parts of making it into the professional arena, which is it's not an easy task. I've had the opportunity of speaking with a young man and his father. We'll get to that interview later, but really, Peter, let's talk a little bit about your pathway thus far, and then people can get an understanding of how you had to navigate so many different ways to get to where you are today, and just understand that there are challenges and bumps in the road.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, Earl, and to your audience. Thanks for having me on board. When I met with you a few weeks ago and we discussed this possibility, I was really excited by the idea for exactly that reason. I think people need to understand just what this journey entails, what it's like, what it involves. So, for me, on a personal level, my son actually wanted to study automotive engineering, and he discovered his passion for cars when he was 14, 15 years old. And unfortunately, those options just weren't available to him in Bermuda. So we did some research and we found a couple of schools here in the UK that offered that. um, I would say, fortunately, unfortunately, however you want to look at it, the one that he chose was not a boarding school. So we packed up and left the island to come out here to support him on his journey. So I think that gives me a unique perspective into what parents may face in particular, because I uprooted my family. We uprooted our family to come out here to help our children fulfill their dreams. And now what I'm seeing is that several Bermudians are looking for the options over here in the UK, education and football wise. So, like I say, I do feel that I have a unique perspective on what it's like as a parent, not just from the football arena.
Right. It's interesting you make that comment that you all decided. What was that conversation like to kind of make sure everybody was on the same page to initially decide, hey, we need to leave Bermuda for the options of our kids?
Yeah, like I said, those options unfortunately just weren't available on the island.
Hmm.
I do think that that's a discussion that needs to be had as well, because there are things that our young people want to pursue that we can't provide for them there on the island, like the trades, which I think is very, very unfortunate. I mean, him now, he's 18 years old and he's a fully certified mechanic.
Mm.
So, he's actually working in a garage now. He's been there for several months and absolutely loves it. So, like I say, level 3, fully certified, working in a garage. But we came out to the UK in December. We looked at a few schools, and we decided that that's the one that was going to give him the best opportunity to pursue his passion.
Mm.
Um, we applied. The application was approved in May, so we had to pack up and leave the island in July.
Mm.
Um, thoughts. It was towards the end of May, so look, what are we going to do?
Hmm.
Um, put our heads to the wheel, our shoulder to the wheel type of thing, looked at options, found a place to stay. And, I we kind of packed up our lives. At the time I was late 40s. To be able to pack up 40 years of life into two duffel bags was quite challenging, because we didn't come with our furniture, we didn't come with everything we absolutely own.
Mm.
The four of us, two duffel bags each, and off we went. Very, very intimidating. We didn't know what we were going to encounter. Transportation, weather, all sorts of challenges. But now that we're here, we're settled in. He's on the pathway to where he wants to be. My daughter's settled in well. I've been able to immerse myself in the football environment. So it's been rewarding, a challenge to say the least, but it's been rewarding.
Yeah. Now, not because you went into the football world. I mean, you were heavily involved in Bermuda. You get to the UK and it's something of your passion. You wanted to stay involved, but just like a parent who would have a footballer, you had to juggle your children's education as well as being available to do what you had to do in the coaching world. So just so parents understand, there's got to be some balance. There's got to be some sacrifice, because I talked to Duke about that. Just that the parent making the sacrifice for you. How challenging was that?
Oh, it was tremendously challenging. My son, his school was a 40-minute drive away.
Mm,
As you're speaking with me now, it's just after 3 p.m. here in the UK, and it's starting to get dark already, believe it or not. So
mm,
at 4 p.m., it will be absolutely pitch black dark. He finished school at 5. So I had to drive 40 minutes to pick him up, 40 minutes to get back home. Training, I was fortunate enough that the first club I applied to, I got in a position because they wanted someone with futsal experience. It
mm.
was they're in League One now, Peterborough United. I think you actually interviewed me when that first came about.
Yes, I did.
Peterborough was an hour away in the opposite direction. So I had to pick my son up, drop him home, then drive an hour to Peterborough and an hour back for £15 an hour.
My
So
goodness.
don't think that is glamorous. Don't
Right.
think that, outside of the Premier League and outside of being a player, you're not making a lot of money here coaching in the UK. It might look glamorous. Oh, he works at a professional club. £15 an hour. So I was
Mm.
doing £15 per session, sorry. And the session was
Oh,
90 minutes.
oh man.
So I was doing 4 sessions a week, which equated to £60. It cost me £60 to fill up my car.
Wow.
Why,
But you do
why,
that three
why
times a week.
just, and I had to fill up my car 2, 3 times a week with all that driving. Like I said, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, pitch black.
Mm.
One day I picked my son up. I was driving home. It started to snow.
Oh boy.
I'd never driven in the snow before. It was terrifying.
I
you
can
know,
only imagine. I can only imagine.
one Saturday it had snowed the night before.
Uh,
Um, Woke up Saturday morning, obviously snow on the ground. I pick up the phone. I call the director. I said, "Hey, is training on today?" He said, "Why would training not be on, Pete?" I said, "Oh man, back home, I'm used to people. If we've had a few showers in the afternoon, I'm used to parents
according,
saying,
you
'Is
ain't
training
making it.
on today?' Training's on. Rain, blows, snow. Training is on,
Uh,
and you get better than 90% attendance.
wow, well, boy,
Yeah.
I can only imagine, because they're trying to make it as well. So,
Yep.
the
Yep.
game don't stop because a little bit of snow or a lot of
Exactly.
snow. Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about the parent side, because a lot of people are talking about right now, how young should they allow their kid to leave the nest, as they say, and go into a boarding school. If not, they uproot themselves and move abroad. But the parent side, how much do they need to understand what they're getting their young person into when they want, because boys and girls, all they want to do is be a professional. That's their dream and their goal. And they
Yeah.
bug the parent, they bug the parent, they bug the parent. But sometimes the parent just throws up their hands and say, you know what, okay, let's find a school. But what should we be looking for, and what age group should we be looking for to allow them to leave that nest for the parents' sake?
Age wise, you have to get into this environment, whether it's here, whether it's somewhere else in Europe, maybe even in the US, if that's your decision. But you have to get in the environment as soon as possible. And when I say as soon as possible, I mean 9, 10, 11 years old. The
Mm,
reason for that is that the level here is so high. It's so competitive here. If you're not financially able or you're not emotionally secure enough to send your child over at that age, and you wait until 12, 13, 14, your child is that much further behind the child that's been in this environment since he was 7, 8, 9, 10. So, and there's literally tens of thousands. The actual number, I think, is close to 2 million young people involved in football here.
mm,
And all the statistics are online. I think it's 0.01% actually make it into that top level of the Premier League. So
mhm,
the level here is just tremendous. So if you are waiting for whatever reason until your son, your daughter is 12, 13, 14, you're that many years behind the child that's been in that environment since they were 8, 9, 10. So you have to
mm,
play catch up. The
right.
biggest kind of challenge I think that our players are facing are the pace and the physicality of the game.
Mm,
Our technical skill is, I actually think, it's superior to what I've experienced here, believe it or not, because we are very creative. The standout player is always the one that can dribble with the ball, that can take a player on, that can do the fancy move. That's not really encouraged here. So our players at that younger age, because we are technically stronger, we do stand out a bit. But
mhm,
like I said, what we struggle with is the pace of the game. Everything is 1 and 2 touch and lots of movement off the ball. And we seem to struggle with that. We want to take that extra touch. We want to dribble with the ball. And then the physicality is that you're usually up against players that are physically bigger than you and they will hit you.
mm. You
Just
want to see
is
what
what
you're
it
like.
is of the game here. Yeah.
They want to see if you can take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Peter, when people call you or you're talking to people to give them advice on their young person, what's your message to the parent? Because again, it's sort of an unknown. You hear about other people's stories, but no one's path is ever the same as someone else's.
Yeah. When parents reach out to me, I try to schedule a Zoom interview, not just with them, but with the child as well. So we can sit down and we could talk about what are your goals, what are your aspirations, what is it you really want from this. And I try to paint a realistic picture. I try to let the parents know what the environment is like. I try to let the child know the challenges they're going to face with the weather, with the style of football, with, like I discussed, the physicality. Then I let them know what they're going to experience on an interview because they're going to have to sit on a Zoom call for well over an hour, closer to 2 hours, depending on which school you might decide to explore. But you're going to have to speak with the administrative staff and or a head of school, like a teacher, head of a department, and you're going to have to speak with the director of the football academy if that's what you're looking to come out here for. Um, they just want to get a feel for you as a person. You can send all the highlight video and all this, your CV, your resume of your football background that you like, but they don't know you. They want to have a conversation with you. Can you carry on a conversation? Can you answer a question in a few sentences? Sorry, not just 1 and 2 word answers. So they want to get a feel for you as a person, as an individual. And then the parents have to understand, first and foremost, how expensive it is here to send your child to one of the top rated boarding schools that do have the football academy option. I mean, you're looking at £30,000 per school year, and that's at the kind of middle to upper end. That's
Mm,
just for the schooling. But when I say schooling, that includes your room, your board, your meals, your football academy experience. But obviously, if you're looking to bring your child home for the holidays, you're looking at the airfare expense. British Airways have gone absolutely through the roof to the point
mm,
now where some of our parents that do have children now are looking at going through the US because it's that much cheaper. But then how much do you take out of the child with traveling to the US and then here to the UK?
mm, mm,
It's quite challenging for a 12, 13-year-old young man or young lady.
mhm,
Um, then you have to feel comfortable as a parent in the environment that your child's in. If you choose not to come with them, you're 3,000 miles away.
right.
If that child's having a bad day, you might not hear about it until you get home from work. But when you get home from work, it's 10 o'clock at night here. So that
Mm,
child may have already gone to bed and he hasn't been able to touch base with mom or dad to talk about his bad day.
mm,
So, it is a challenge. But how badly do you want it? If this is what you want, this is the environment you have to be in. I think but these are the challenges that you're gonna face.
Mm. One of the things that I noted, just talking with you and others that have been in similar positions, is just that. How bad do you want it? Now, we have to make sure it's the young person that really, really wants it, and not the parent forcing the young person to really, really want it. You know what I mean? Because we have that a lot, and then the young person finds himself in an environment that I don't really want to be here. I'm really doing this because my parents want me to do this, and you fall out of love with the game. So how important is it that it's the young person's desire and not just the parent's desire for the young person?
Yeah, that's absolutely vital. It has to be the child that wants it, as you say, not the parent pushing the child to want it. Because it will ultimately backfire on you. The child will rebel. The child won't really be prepared, and that's another thing. Preparation is key. I'm sure you and I will touch on that later. How do you get prepared in an environment as laid back as Bermuda to be out here in a football environment where everybody wants it, everybody's going for it, type of thing? So yeah, preparation is key. The child has to absolutely want it. You have to be prepared to train 4 and 5 times a week. And I know that several of our athletes are doing that now with all the various programs that they're involved in.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be prepared to train in the rain, in 35, 40-degree weather, in the snow. You have to be prepared for travel distances that can add up to anywhere to a 2-hour drive. When we have away games, our away games, I leave home maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not home till 4 in the afternoon. And most of that is travel time. So 2 hours to get to the match. Then you have the match itself, then 2-3 hours to get home, depending on traffic. If my GPS works, because that's happened. I've gone easily 50 miles in the wrong direction more than once. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. And then, as the child, if you're in the school environment, the school's going to take you to the away games on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come out here as an individual and you want to pursue the professional pathway, you have to make your own arrangements to get to that away game. Or if your parents do come with you, because I know some Bermudians are in that situation now where they've sacrificed to come out here with the child and support the child to pursue those goals as well. So the dad has to drive that 2 hours to that away match in the rain, in the cold, in the dark, and then stand there on the sidelines and then watch his son maybe sit on the bench for 60 minutes and only get, half an hour playing time, and then find his way home. It's difficult. It's difficult. So you have to really want it. And it's not going to happen overnight. You have to be prepared for years of sacrifice. I've been in the environment now where the young man that you interviewed earlier this week, he was with me for maybe 8-9 months. But he would come and play for us on a Saturday, and then I would speak with his dad after the match. And, oh yeah, I got a 3-hour drive now to Wales. Like, Wales, why? Oh, because he has to play against Swansea City's academy tomorrow. So we're going to drive to Wales now, stay overnight, play the match, and then drive back. This is
he describes that too,
yeah. So the child is sleeping in the back of the car, and dad's on his own, having to concentrate on the road. Even being English, a lot of these areas you have to travel to, you're not familiar with.
Right.
So challenges left, right, and center. How badly do you want it?
Sure. Actually, let's get to that interview with Duke and Malachi, only because they say quite a few things in there that we're discussing, but to actually hear it from these two who are living it right now in order for Malachi to fulfill his dream. So let's talk. Let's get that interview from Duke and Malachi. Well, first of all, Duke and Malachi, thank you for joining. It's important that we hear of the struggles and the commitment it takes to be in the UK, to try and make the best of whatever situation and try to become a professional. But Duke, for you as a parent, let's talk a little bit about what you as the parent must go through, are going through, to see that Malachi has every opportunity to make it as far as he can in the sport.
Okay, so from a parent's perspective, it is a lot of hard work. I leave early from work to be able to make his football commitments. He has gone from training once a week to twice a week to now training 3 times a week. So that's 3 days a week. I leave work an hour early to be able to get him to his training sessions on time, with a match on Sundays, which can be anywhere from 60 miles away to 180 miles away. So yeah, it takes some bit of commitment.
Yeah. When you guys are looking to kind of get yourselves in a position to ensure that all the right moves are being made to progress, how are you seeking advice for that? Because I know Malachi will just want to play all the time, but as a parent, you also have to look out for his safety in ensuring that he's not overdoing it. He's not, burning himself out both physically and mentally. So how are you getting that advice to ensure that those small things are not happening?
So I tend to make sure that he's in the right positions and getting the right opportunities to be seen and recognized for his talent, his skill set. He's gone through the grassroots system, so he's played grassroots. So that's every Sunday was playing, making sure that you optimize his skill set for tournaments, where there be sometimes scouts may be available to watch that day. So you want to make sure that you're getting the best out of him there. The best thing was probably last season playing for under 11s, where he got recognized and picked up for a district team, which gave a lot of exposure to not just him, but the team in general. They were playing, in the UK. He's based in the Hertfordshire area, so that's the southeast, but we were playing everywhere from that local area to the west, and even to the middle area, like the Birmingham area as well. So it gave a lot of exposure for him, and just making sure on his rest days he did rest. Sit down, eat the right foods, relax, and just make sure that when it was a rest day, it was a rest day, because he does work hard a lot during the week.
So now let me jump into you, Malachi, because as a young man, you just love to play football, and you would play it at any time in any given day. But understanding what you've asked your parents to help you go through, did you think it would be as tough as it has been for you thus far?
Probably definitely not, because, well, at first I started, just doing it for fun and trying to be the best I could be. And then it's taken me a lot further than I thought. And, sometimes we're traveling in the car for 3-4 hours. And I didn't think it would take us this far to be in a car for that long, or doing all these things, going to Wales and whatnot, all for just the sport that I'm playing.
And that's just the thing, traveling so far on any given day. How much does it take out of you as you're preparing for either training or a game, having to go so far? Because Bermuda's in the AB, but you're traveling 3 and 4 hours to get to either training or a match.
Well, I do have to wake up really early, and when I get back from school and whatnot, I have to be eating my food and straight out the door to make sure I get there on time. I obviously have to have a good diet, which means I can't just have quick things, so stuff has to be ready, and I have to do things quickly and know where stuff is and sort myself out. Otherwise, I won't get placed on time, and I won't be able to play the sport I love.
Yeah. And Duke, let me get back to you, because one of the most important things is it's called sacrifice. And in order to give the opportunity to your son, you guys have had to make a sacrifice as well. A lot of people see the professional at the end of their, at the end where they make a professional, but they don't see the struggle that goes into trying to get there. So your challenges and your time, what has it been like for you and your family, making sure that again Malachi gets these opportunities?
Look, first of all, I do want to touch on Malachi. Like, he's 12 years old. He's a young boy. He's a child. So, you know, most kids want to finish school and go and play with their friends and have that leisure time. My son's coming in, and in a space of 40 minutes, he's back out the door again. He's in. He's sacrificing his time with his friends for a sport that he enjoys, his fun, but he knows can also take him somewhere. On my side of things, it's the same. You know, like I mentioned earlier, I'm sacrificing, and I'm thankful that I have an employer, that allows me to finish work early to get my child to his destinations, but also, you know, social events. You know, we got to miss certain things, or we're not around for certain things, or I can't be with my friends and socialize because I've got to be up at 6 a.m. to get him somewhere, or I've got to take him somewhere the night before to make sure that he can have that extra sleep. Because most times, if it is anything over 3 hours, I will look for accommodation nearby, go the night before, so that he gives him the most optimal sleep and rest time, so that he doesn't have to wake up at ridiculous in the morning to have that commute. And sometimes it doesn't work. You know, there's been occasions where matches have been cancelled, but we're already there. But for me personally, I'd rather make sure that I've done that so that he's prepared, so that he can go out and he's full of energy, you know, ready to go, instead of stuck in a car for 3 hours, then warming up for an hour to go. And it comes from the whole family, you know, from myself, from mum, from dad, grandparents, brothers. We all take a sacrifice for him so that he can potentially go as far as he can with it. And that's it. I just want to make sure that he has the best opportunity to reach whatever potential he has. Because once he crosses that line, it's on him to show, okay, mum and dad have done everything they can do to get me here. Now I need to show what I can do. And that's coaches as well. We've had some wonderful coaches along the way that have given a great advice. And I keep in touch with, because, you know, I want their word in my ear. I want to hear certain things, and it just keeps him active and alert.
And Malachi, what advice would you have to anyone else, any young kid of your age or a little younger that's trying to make the path that you're making? What advice would you have for them to advise them that this road isn't easy?
Well, I'd probably tell them that you gotta definitely be prepared for missing out time with your friends. It's not for people who aren't dedicated to doing something, because you miss time with your friends. You can't go out. Sometimes you can't see your family. Sometimes you may feel very alone, because sometimes it's just me, my dad, my mum, and it's just us in a car, and we're places and people invite me to things, but I can't go there. So I would definitely say just be prepared to feel alone sometimes, but not so much alone, but to just sacrifice being a bit of a child to know that there's something there.
Yeah. And Duke, for you as a parent, what advice would you have for the parents? Because a lot of parents think they have the most skillful kid, the talent is there, but there's not just the football aspect of it. It's a lot more that goes into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, there is. It's working hard. At the end of the day, we all see what our child can do, but once you get from grassroots to maybe that middle ground to academy level, where thankfully Malachi is now, you see that once you get to that top level, that 1-2% of the children in your child's age range, every child has different abilities, technical abilities, possession, different skill set, left footers that are a rarity, kids that can play with both feet. It's just knowing that the hunger and the passion. And for me with Malachi, the main thing is, remember why you play this game is for fun. You know, fun is the first reason you come here to play, enjoy it, but also work hard, because as we all know, we all watch the Premiership, you know, the pinnacle of football, and that's where every child wants to get to one day, the top of it all. So if you work hard, there's avenues and pathways for you to get there, and you know, you just got to put the dedication in, and anything's possible.
Well, I want to thank you both for sharing just a little bit of your pathway to where you are today, and I want to wish you all the best in you know, your endeavors. And I know Malachi, your mom and your dad's going to ensure that you have every opportunity to make it. As your father already said, the rest is up to you. Yeah. So I mean, to hear it from not just the parent, but from the young man himself, who would have gone into this unknown thinking, oh, well, if I'm in the UK and I get a club, it's just down the road. But to find out you got to drive 3 hours, sometimes even further. You're eating in the back of the car, you're sleeping in the back of the car, you know, all of that, because again, everybody just sees the glamorous. When they press that remote and see the Premier League, they don't see and hear enough about the struggle to get onto that road.
Yeah, really, really powerful interview, Earl. Really well done. I've worked with that young man for quite some months now, twice a week, and I had never heard, you know, that's the first for me to hear that interview. But just for some perspective, Duke is probably 6'4" and built like an American football player. He's a big man,
Right.
but a gentle giant. He's always the last one to leave training, and he'll stay behind just to ask, you know, what do you think? What else can he do? So it's, you know, it's the hard work, the dedication, but it's also the, you know, what next? What next? What more can we do? What more can we do? But two things, I made some notes. Two things that stood out for me during the interview, and Duke touched on it and Malachi touched on it, but was eating properly, the nutrition.
Yes.
As a 12-year-old man, he's recognizing that he needs to eat properly. And then when he said that he has to sort himself out, that's an English slang, you know, sort yourself out. But what he means is that, you know, you have that, he said it himself, that 40-minute turnaround time. So you get in the door, he has to eat, he has to pack his bag, he has to make sure he has all his kit, because he's right back out the door. So what struck me was his 12 years old, but his sense of responsibility and independence. That's what I think also, you know, kind of brings to the game, brings to the development of the young person, is the sense of responsibility that you have to take on your shoulders. So you can see that he wants it. You know, he's at Reading's academy now.
Yes.
Reading are a top-end championship club, but I know that for several months he also trained with Chelsea. The reason he didn't take up the offer from Chelsea is that Reading is just that little bit closer to him. And I think that, in all honesty, he felt like he might have a bit more of a chance at Reading as opposed to Chelsea.
And I mean, yeah, you talked about it, because he even said, when he said he had to sort himself out, you have to know where everything is, because you're dealing with a small window. So when you get into that house, I got to know where I put my boots. I got to know where I have to get everything that I need, because it's on you. It's not, your parents are taking you there, but it's on you to make sure you have everything needed. And again, like you said, at 12 years old, understanding his responsibilities. And that's another thing that I guess parents here will have to understand. Can your child, or has your child been given the responsibility of ensuring they have all their gear to go to training, have all their gear to go to play a match? Or are you folding up everything for them, packing their bag, asking them what else do they need? Because when you get into that environment, it's almost like it's independent. You have to be independent, because at the training ground, the parent has to stay on the side. The parent can't say anything. So it's you're on that field representing yourself, kind of thing, with a coach that's telling you to do things. And if you've not been given that responsibility to do it on your own, now it becomes a new challenge. I don't care how skillful you are. If you're not doing it on your own, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to manifest itself really, really quick, because you're gonna be, you're not gonna be able to take in that information and then be able to execute the task that's being asked of you to do.
But he shows such a level of maturity and understanding. He says that he has that 40-minute turnaround time and he has to grab his snack. So, he spoke of the nutrition. Duke spoke of the nutrition. I'm sure he's not grabbing a slice of pizza from last night and running out the door with that in his belly. So he knows what it takes to fuel his body. He knows that, Duke understands that he has to rest. So imagine, Duke, I don't want to reveal too much of his background, but he's not a CEO. Right. So, he recognizes that he has to leave home the night before and get a hotel for his son to rest properly to be able to perform at his peak the next day. So he's paying that out of his pocket, or he was, for Malachi to be at this level now. So again, the sacrifices. But Malachi was also one that would always ask questions. And I think he gets that from his dad. If there was something in the drill that he didn't understand, why are we doing this? What's the end goal of this drill? What is my role within this drill? What is it you want me to do? So, always asking questions. So I think that comes down to what you touched on earlier. The child has to want it. And it's not just, putting the work in and training. You have to understand the rest. You have to understand the nutrition. You have to understand your role within the game. And when I talked earlier about if you do get to a point where you're on a Zoom call or a face-to-face interview with the director of one of these academies at a school or a professional academy, that's one of the questions they're going to ask you, because I've sat in on the interviews as well as like a support system for the family. The director will ask the child, okay, what's your best position? He might say, for example, right midfield. Okay, well, what do you think is the role of a right midfielder? And there's no right or wrong answer because they'll work with you, but they want to know that you're thinking about your role within the team, not just going out there and, thinking that you have to score goals.
Yeah. So let's stay on that nutrition part, because it's important that we get the youngster who has the ambition of becoming a professional, no matter what sport. We're talking football, but we're talking in general as well. Getting on that nutrition plan, getting to understand what you should and should not eat from a young age. So when you get into the environment, it's not, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know. How important is it that the parents seek advice, first, for that nutrition, second, for a training regime that's going to kind of build that person up so they're not that far behind when they get there? Because as you've already indicated, it's the pace.
Yeah, I think even here, the people that make it, like you say, they do seek out the advice of the top level coaches, of nutritionalists, of the teachers even. Because, Malachi was with me at MK, but he was also playing for his grassroots club. He was also playing for his school. He was also doing other sports. We have several players within the team that's in the same boat. It's not just the club that you might be a part of. Until you sign those professional terms, until you get picked up by an academy, you are free to play for as many clubs as you like. So it's not like back home. If you're signed for PHC, you can't play for PHC on Saturday and then play for Village on Sunday. You just can't do it. But here, you can play for the MK Dons pre-academy team on Saturday, and you can play for your grassroots team on Sunday. And then you play for your school team maybe Tuesday. So you're training with us 2-3 times a week. You're training with your grassroots club 2-3 times a week. You're training for your school. A lot of the boys do other sports. So rugby is really big in this area. We're in the Midlands area, and rugby's massive here. A lot of the boys play rugby. So the players that ultimately are successful, the parents seek out the information. Am I overtraining? Is my child eating correctly? We do it similar here to back home. We have the 3 different school terms. So once a term, we'll do assessments with the players and the parents. The parents will come into the club. We'll sit down with a written assessment where we give them a mark from 1 to 10, 10 being high, on where they think they are in a variety of different categories. And without fail, the parents, the players usually come in with a little bottle of water. So one of the first questions I'll ask is, how many of those are you drinking a day? And ultimately, the answer is usually, 1 or 2. And like with as active as you are, you should be drinking a minimum of 4 or 5 of those a day. So they're just not aware. So you have to provide that information. You can train as much as you want, as you well know, but if you're not looking after your body, you're going to end up with the injuries. Overtraining injuries are very, very common here. Then you have the growth pains. They are young people, you know, their bodies are not fully developed yet.
Right.
So yeah, it's a lot more goes into it than just a high level of training.
And well, and the other one thing that we want to touch on today is just that role of the parent when they're a young person. If they make the move out there, how much involved are you in the academy? And you have to understand your role, because I'm pretty sure one of the first things the directors will tell the parents: you are the parent, we are the coaches, we do the coaching, you do the supporting. How? Because I mean, you can go to a youth football game here in Bermuda and you hear the parents telling the young person what position to do, you know, be in, and all sorts of things. We're out there, you're just here to support. You know, and the kid has to understand that during football, during the game, during training, you only listen to the coaches on the sideline.
Yeah, definitely. When you go to watch a training session or matches, usually the way the facilities here are structured is that the field itself is almost in a cage, if that makes sense, and fenced in to about maybe 12 feet high. You're not allowed to go inside of that fence for that exact reason. They don't want the parents shouting out instructions. I've been fortunate enough to assist at academy level. The feedback, the complaint, I guess you could say, that some of the parents get is that the academy coaches don't talk to the parents. And I've seen that. They'll be cordial, hello, how are you? But they won't stop and talk to you. You know, it's almost a level of arrogance whereby I'm the academy coach. You do what I want to do, what I want your son to do. If you don't follow that instruction, you're out. It's because it's such a competitive environment. If you do have a disruptive or non-supportive, not necessarily disruptive, but non-supportive parent, they'll find a way to ask your child to leave the academy because, you know, they might have a playing roster of 22, but there's literally dozens and dozens banging down the door to get in because the way the clubs are structured. You know, you have that entry level, which we call the PDC or Player Development Center.
Right.
Then you have your mid-level, which is the advanced center. And then the level I've been working at, which is pre-academy. So we're kind of preparing the players for academy football. And we end up with academy players in our program as well. They might be coming back from long-term injury. They might have a loss of form. So they're kind of drop down, for want of a better term, to rediscover that form and that passion and that hunger. But one thing it's rare to a point where I haven't experienced it, but you'll never get anyone dropped into your group because of behavior issues or lack of discipline. If that is the issue, you're out altogether. You don't get dropped down to work on it to come back up. You're out. See you later.
Sure. Well, before we go from our first pathway to professional Bermuda series, you're taking on a new role at a big name club, Leicester City, and congratulations on getting that position. But what's your role there, and what do you see? How do you see it helping you progress to what you want to eventually accomplish in the sport of football?
Yeah, sure. I mean, thank you for that. I think it's all about progression, and I kind of happen to be in the right place at the right time type of thing. There's a scout for Leicester City that runs a program literally right across the street from where I live. And I saw it advertised. It's a grassroots program. I had no idea that he worked for Leicester City, but I saw it on Instagram. So I went over to just watch what he was doing, and we got to talking. He found out that I was working at MK. He came to watch a few of my sessions. He asked me would I be interested. And I mean, you know, you don't hang around in League One if the Premier League's calling. So yeah, I actually had a session last night, and, you know, there's not a lot of difference, to be honest, in the level of play I've been working with from one club to the other. But now that you're in a Premier League environment, I mean, wow. I was able to watch the U9s play last night in a friendly match against a grassroots club. And, you know, 1 and 2 touch football at 9 years old, the movement off the ball was absolutely incredible. So I'll be working at a similar level to what I was at MK, which is the pre-academy level. And I'm absolutely fine with that, because it's kind of development, which is what I'm really interested in, helping those players and those families to get to that next level. And we actually had one from that same U9 team that just this week actually signed with the proper academy at Leicester. So I didn't have anything whatsoever to do with that, to be honest, because I've literally just joined. This was my second week, but just to see that opportunity for these boys, and everybody is so focused. It's next level. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I know we talked about what age we should get them out there. When is it? It's never ever too late. So anybody that's got a kid that is got the ambition, got the drive, because we know, remember, Kyle when he was a teenager,
Sure.
Sean when he was a teenager, David left when he was a teenager. You know, a lot of these guys, even Clyde Best left when he was a teenager. So it's not an end all if you don't go at 9, 10. It's just how much work you're gonna have to put in to play the catch-up game, and how much do you really want it? Are you willing to sacrifice even more because you haven't been in that environment? And you know, and again, it's a parent sit-down talk with the young person to say, if you're going to do this, we need to get in touch with someone to make sure that you understand what that commitment looks like, and if you're willing to go through it until the end. Because you can't just get out there and 2 weeks later you say, you know what, I didn't think it was going to be this hard. You haven't mentally prepared yourself. You haven't physically prepared yourself. You haven't talked yourself through it enough, and you haven't sought advice. So again, we're going to be doing this every 2 weeks. You know, just giving people information on what they can actually do to help their young person and themselves if they take that opportunity to travel with and relocate. You know, rather, like you said, whether it's in the UK, whether it's anywhere else in Europe, whether it's in the US, all advice is needed and is welcome, because it's to help not only the player, but the family, because the family has to make a decision who's going to stay in Bermuda to work to make the money. If not, we all relocate and see if we can get a job just to make it work for our young people. So, Pete, it's been great, man.
It has. Thank you. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I had never seen the interview with Duke and Malachi, so that was some great information and great interview. Really well done.
Thanks. Just hearing it from them makes it even more stronger, because they're actually living through it right now.
Definitely.
So we'll be back week after next Wednesday with another edition of Pathway to Professional Bermuda Series, and hopefully we can get some more young people and their parents to discuss their challenges, you know, that they've faced along the way, and we'll just keep bringing that to you. All right.
Yep. Good stuff. Thank you, Earl.
All right. Have a good evening.
You as
Make
well.
sure you
Take
turn
care.
on your lights. Have a good one.
Take care.